Oh, we're flying straight into the weekend on the Elias Macko Show. Third hour of this Friday edition. One more hour left in our week. Hope you're enjoying your time listening this morning. Now, we begin the third hour by talking about No Mow May. No Mow May is a movement that is exactly what it sounds like, promotes people not mowing their lawns during the month of May. The idea is to allow bees to be able to pollinate with the dandelions that grow due to not mowing your lawn. However, there are some that suggest that the movement may not be as effective in North America as possibly thought. Let's talk about this a little further. Ryan Godfrey joins us on the line, a botanist in residence at WWF Canada. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Hi, Elias. Great to talk with you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy. I know this is now years and years and years since this legal battle, but I'm so happy that you guys won the WWF trademark and not those wrestling people. Think it's much more appropriate.
Cheers to that.
So, Ryan, let's talk about No Mow May. It's catchy. I love the sentiment, by the way, to let nature do a little bit of nature, even in our urban environments. So why don't you tell us more about No Mow May and your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, I think it's nice to reevaluate our ideas about how wildlife and nature and pollinators and people can all interact in urban and suburban areas, as you're mentioning. And No Mow May is a wonderful idea, very catchy, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot more that people can do. So, planting native plants in your gardens, leaving a leaf layer, there's just, in my opinion, I think there's more that we can do than just preventing mowing for 1 month out of the year.
Okay, so let's actually take it by these things, maybe each individually, okay? So let's start off with that just one component that is catchy, No Mow May. When you do that, when you participate and say, you know what, I'm not mowing until June, how does it help the local bee population?
Well, okay, for one thing, there are lots of reasons that pollinator populations are in decline, one of which is climate change, which is fueled by greenhouse gases. So if you're not mowing the lawn, you're not emitting greenhouse gases, that's a little bit of an improvement, I suppose. You're also creating a bit of a habitat layer where certain types of bees and other pollinators could live in and amongst your longer grass. You've got nectar and pollen from these non-native species like clovers and dandelions that are going to grow in there. So there are a bunch of different small features that you're improving throughout the month of May if you engage in this No Mow May. Okay, so those are things that have an impact, but as you say, tiny impact there.
Let's talk about things that may have a bigger impact, maybe the things that we should focus on. They don't have a catchy title, but they've got a bigger impact. You mentioned that allowing some native flowers species to grow. Can you get into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So native plants have been growing in your particular region. They depend on where you specifically are, but they've co-evolved with pollinators and other wildlife for thousands of years, and they're really, really great at providing nutritious and delicious food for pollinators and wildlife of all kinds. They're also really beautiful species and fun to grow and fun to learn about, and many of them are compatible with lawns. For example, wild strawberries, common blue violets, pussy toes are another species. All of these could actually be intermingled into your lawn. You can still mow them if you want to, but they'll be providing a lot more habitat value for those pollinators.
Do you think sometimes people make the wrong decision for aesthetic reasons? Like they want something that looks pretty, but it may not be the best choice overall for, the general health of, bees or the ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got these aesthetic ideas that are pretty ingrained, and we maybe inherited them from our parents or grandparents. And, there's a lot going on in the world, climate change, biodiversity loss. We have to reevaluate a lot of those norms, and there are alternatives to those things. Like planting a native plant garden, a habitat garden, is actually a really wonderful thing to do. I'd love to see that become a new norm that's adopted by a broad swath of people.
So habitat garden, tell me a little bit more about that. Like for someone who's listening and maybe they're like, hey, let me do something different this year. How could they easily do that in their gardens and backyards?
Yeah, so a habitat garden really just means that you're acknowledging that you share your garden with wildlife and pollinators, and you're going to manage and make choices in your garden and your yard that acknowledge and support that relationship. So obviously planting native plants is the easiest and first step that I would encourage. You may even decide to convert part of your lawn to like a wildflower meadow or a woodland garden if you've got a shadier spot. Another thing you can do to help pollinators is in the fall, you can leave a leaf layer. So rather than blowing those leaves around and sending them off, a lot of pollinators live in that leaf layer over the winter. And by just leaving that on the ground, that's a pretty low effort thing to do. You can help support pollinators year round.
Talk about low effort, no effort, in fact. You do less work than ever, and you help the planet. I like hearing that, by the way. I'm sure a lot of people do.
That's right.
On the text line here, I got a note here from Tony, Ryan. Elias, last year we left the dandelions until later. We had many bees, and it really did my garden some good. I absolutely loved the bees. And that to me, Ryan, and I know when I notice the bees going around the yard, the backyard, and they're doing their job, they're visiting all the flowers, that actually makes me happy. Like, it brings joy to my life to see that. And those are some other aspects that I think we forget. With Ryan Godfrey, botanist in residence at WWF Canada, what else can we do for those of us living in urban environments to help out the bees?
Yeah, if people have, are interested in this type of thing, we've got lots of different actions that people can take on our platform. It's called Regrow. You can visit that at wwf.ca/regrow. What I mentioned already, planting native plants, trees, leaving a leaf layer, all of that stuff, we've got super detailed information for how people can do it step by step. We've really broken it down for you. But yeah, I would say also just talking about this kind of stuff, that mental health aspect, feeling more connected to nature. Let's just have more conversations about that. I think it should become normalized to love the nature that you're in and that you're part of.
How are the bees doing, Ryan?
Not great, honestly, Elias. It varies from year to year and from species to species, but unfortunately a lot of native pollinators, their populations are in decline. They're moving around because of climate change, and they need a bit of help, and we can provide that help.
And just on the local garden centers that we go to, right, to get our flowers, our plants for the year, do you have any suggestions on how to make sure that when we pick our selection for the year or what we're going to decide to plant and grow, that we're making the right choices?
Yeah, this is a really key time of year to be asking questions at the garden center. So, knowing whether or not there are pesticides on the plants is really important. If you're planting plants to help pollinators, it's very important that those plants are not sprayed with chemicals that are going to hurt the pollinators, evidently. You really should be planting native species, so ask the garden center staff, is there a native plant section? And if not, why not? Maybe they should get some. And then I would always say to source locally as much as possible. There are a lot of specialist native plant growers. Again, you'll find resources to locate those nurseries on our website, regrow.ca. And yeah, if you can connect with those local specialist native plant growers, you'll be on track to do some wonderful things in the world of restoration and ecological help.
Ryan, thanks for spending the time with us this morning. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
From WWF Canada, that's Ryan Godfrey, a botanist in residence.